All right. So thanks to everybody for joining us today. Today we've got three fantastic people with us who are also members of our cooperative and pretty fantastic with the CrowdFiber platform. You're going to see and hear a conversation where we talk about some of the reasons they subscribe to the platform, how they use the platform in the past, how they're using it today, and we'll dive into some of the features that they find useful in just providing their organization with more capabilities or greater efficiency day to day. But the real goal of this webinar is to make sure that all of you leave here today with the ability to make an educated, informed decision about CrowdFiber. So the way to do that is for you to interact with us as we're having this conversation. Feel free as we're talking to unmute, ask a question, raise your hand, post something in the chat. We'll do our best to answer all the questions that come in because that's really the heart and soul of what this webinar is all about. We're hoping that you'll get all the information you're looking for today. Last but not least, in just a moment, I will post a link in the chat. And this is, we would love to have some insight from you as well. And this is just going to be a link to the Mentimeter. And this Mentimeter will just be a way for you to provide some insight into what you're looking for, some of the things that you're working through today, and just a couple more pieces of data that will be helpful for us. So without further ado, let's get this webinar started with a round of introductions from our guests, Maxie, Kurt, and Carrie. Maxie, would you like to start? Just tell the crowd who you are.
I think we're still waiting
I
for
think
Maxie to join, Lucas.
Oh, interesting. That's well, she was just with us before this, but let's see here. Kurt, why don't you take it away and we'll
Sure. Hey, Lucas, and good to see everybody on the webinar today. Thanks for the invitation. My name's Kurt Grunling. We're a fourth generation family-owned rural broadband provider up here in Vermont.
Cool. Carrie, how about you?
I'm Carrie Sutton. I'm with HCTC, or Hill Country Telephone Cooperative, as some of you guys may know us. We're in Ingram, Texas, which is right just west of San Antonio, in the pretty part of Texas, I like to say. And today we're having an employee picnic, so I'm in my Texas shirt, and I would smell like barbecue if you guys were here, but you're not. So smell like roses. And I'm the marketing manager. Anyway, just huge fan of Lucas and his team. So happy to be on the call today.
Thank you.
And Lucas, it looks like Macy just joined.
Yeah. Hey, we're just going through some introductions.
Okay. Well, Maxie Hurst. I'm with Peoples in Northeast Texas Equipment. And we have been a CrowdFiber shop, as I say, for like just about 10 years or so, and have really been enjoying the platform. And I am not enjoying barbecue, but I wish I was. So I'm just sitting at my desk here in Quitman, Texas.
That's true. I think you've seen all three versions of the software as it's evolved throughout its time. Well, let's speaking of which, let's jump right into it. So I want to rewind to before each of your organizations started using CrowdFiber and talk about, well, just ask, what were some of the core challenges that your teams were facing that led you to CrowdFiber?
Our CSRs were quitting. They're like, please don't make me call engineering one more time to try to find out if we have fiber, or for that matter, what services do we have at XYZ address. And this one building where engineers were, they hated the other building where the CSRs were. It was a very stressful situation because you had to make 3 or 4 phone calls. We're trying to teach the CSRs how to use our CAD system, and CSRs are like, I'm not an engineer, I don't want to be an engineer, and CSRs, or the engineers, like, I don't want to be a CSR. So yeah, it was a volatile environment. And I don't want to say CrowdFiber solved everything, but CrowdFiber solved everything for us. It's completely changed our culture, and it's been huge for us in that.
Awesome.
Yeah, I can go next, Lucas. Just
Sure.
like Carrie, I think ours was a similar problem, right? We all have trouble answering the when, and that when question is probably the most frequently asked question, right? Our CSRs get, and that's when can I get fiber? So, obviously over the past 2 decades, right, we've been transitioning from our copper network to fiber. We're about 70% through that transition. Focusing on certainly, the more rural parts of our service territory, going after various grant fundings. But we also know, right, that doesn't always answer the when question for the CSRs, and they're getting those frontline calls, and we needed a better way, to be able to take our address data and map that to our build plans, and CrowdFiber allowed us to do that. So that was when we first launched it, right? It was primarily an internal platform, but we wanted to make that customer facing as well. So be able to capture not only information and deliver messaging based on that specific address to our existing customers to answer that one question, but also, right, capture that information from potential customers. And then secondarily, we started partnerships where we're the operating partner with 3 communications union districts, which I won't go into the specifics, but they're these quasi-municipal entities in Vermont where we're the ones doing the customer service, the billing, the actual installations, and operating the network, even though they're operating under their own specific brand. So we needed to be able to capture that customer interest, but also be able to convert those to orders so that our CSRs and our technicians, right, we could get those into our workflow. So CrowdFiber is providing that customer facing side and that back end system for us as well on those.
And Peoples is much like what Kurt alluded to. We started as an internal. CrowdFiber was the solution. The problem was we had multiple maps and we had overlapping territory. So we had services that extended into our cooperative footprint, and then we would offer our customers the wrong service. So not only do we have engineering it was coming at our customer service team because of what we were offering, but our regulatory affairs director was not very happy with us when we were offering the wrong solutions to our customers, and then having to go back and retrofit that with the customer made our customer service teams not very happy as well. So being able to see our entire network on one platform, because we operate fiber, copper, and a fixed wireless solution. So being able to see that on the layers and being able to visualize that, and then expanding and offering those additional details like timeframes, construction deadlines, things like that within the platform, which I don't think is initially how some of the features that we're using was how CrowdFiber intended it to be used. But it's been very helpful, for us. So. Oh, Lucas, you're muted there.
Lucas.
Whatever you're saying great about me, nobody heard it. We're going to start over.
I was going to say you have definitely embraced the flexibility of the platform. That is for sure. It's been great to see you guys as creative as you've been with the software.
Well, and I mean, I may come up later, but I just want to anybody who's thinking about CrowdFiber, the flexibility of the platform and the teams and the support system is really something that you can't put a value on that, because it's when you need something and the people are there to embrace your whims of their platform and their baby that they built, and you're like, but what if it did this? That's something you can't really quantify, and it's definitely an invaluable thing. And so just a shout out to the CrowdFiber team and their flexibility, because sometimes that's hard to do. So
cool. Thank you. I'm going to give a quick speed tour of a couple of features, just some of the things that you guys touched on, just to give the crowd, for someone who might not have had a chance to explore the platform yet, a quick look into some of the things that were mentioned. So from visual and quantitative details of records and CrowdFiber metrics like uptake and total address counts, homes passed, right, to just being able, with a single address search, being able to see all of the details behind an address on a single page, from the service area status, any leads, any existing orders, to available products. There's ways just with a single address search inside your platform to have an intelligent conversation with your colleagues or your future customers about service availability at their address. And last but not least, CrowdFiber does provide you with a site where people can begin an address search. You could also do things like embedding your service area map into your proprietary website. And you can also embed the search address widget into your website to create a more seamless experience. So people don't have to visit your CrowdFiber site to start one of the targeted registration processes. They can just, with a search widget right on your site, begin the order process or the pre-registration process right there in line with your brand on your as many pages on your proprietary website as you'd like. A little bit of a platform plug there. But with everything you said about how you came about CrowdFiber, how has your use of the platform evolved since you've launched? Because I've seen all three of you do some creative things with the software. So this is going to be a fun walk down memory lane for me. What are some of the ways the platform is helping you out today?
I'll jump out there. So obviously, we're still using it as an internal tool to talk to our customers. We have, it's not that long ago that People's adopted the widget that Lucas showed you. That was our homepage there, and turned it in from an external platform as well as the internal. So now our customers are using the widget. They are going through the cart experience, and that is relatively new within the last few years for People's. Also, something to point out, like it is our main tool for direct marketing. And I don't know that I've ever actually said that out loud before to Lucas, but that's where we get all of our addresses when we go into new territories. So that was a huge adjustment for us as well, using it as the address tool for captivating new customers and to market to them directly. And then, looking at future growth, it's a pretty easy to use platform that offers a lot of insight and data. So anybody at the company that wants to draw a shape on a polygon and extract data from it, they can, and then we can delete it later. And so it definitely offers for and we do. We go to look to see who created it. We're like, theirs doesn't count. We delete it. But no, it is so versatile from that regard that you can draw a shape, extract some data, see who your customers are, see how many potentials, businesses, things like that. So it offers some insights and flexibility for future planning. It's called CrowdFiber, really Crowd Broadband. We throw it for wireless technologies to see how many addresses, to see, is it a feasible option to put a new tower up? So we're using it for new customer acquisition, internal comments and questions with our customers, and then for future planning for not just fiber, but also fixed wireless as well.
Awesome. And just like Maxie, Lucas, I think, we use it for all the things we said before, but it's much more than that. And thankfully, the CrowdFiber platform helped us with our BEAD grant applications as well. Exactly what you said, Maxie. That was drawing the different zones and isolating, pulling them. We had obviously good address data for the customers that we have, but we all know in certain areas, there's some competitive overlap. We might not have those customers, especially if they were newer builds. So it really allowed us to match up our address data based on the zones and different polygons that we were drawing all over the place, and being able to just match that data and isolate the data, some of that address data that we didn't have. So it was super helpful for that. But we had a ton of zones that we built specifically for those grant applications, and that was also over the past 2 or 3 years, with our state ARPA grants, we were doing that same thing. So, we would make specific zones and collect that address data in there specifically for those grant applications, which is outside of all the great things, that CrowdFiber is doing for us on a day-to-day basis. But I would say, Lucas, you and Bailey and others have been right with us as, we bounced use cases off you, figured out better ways to message both on an internal basis, but also on an external basis. And the other thing I like is the platform itself is constantly evolving. We use a lot of custom fields that are specific for the work we're doing with the Communications Union District and those partnerships. And we've been able to automate a lot of those workflows, so that we can turn a order, right? It's now in an in-service zone. So it goes from pre-registration area it's being built to actual order, right? With physical products that are ordered, right? We capture the billing address, the service address, right? That then goes to pre-installation site survey for a technician, right? Then once that's completed, right, if it's an aerial or doesn't need conduit, right, it then gets kicked over to the drop crew. Once that gets checked off, right, there's emails that are going out to the customer throughout that process. But then it's getting converted right over to the customer service reps when it's install ready, right? And it moves to scheduling, and then what I call it graduates once it's service active, from CrowdFiber over to the billing system. So we've certainly enhanced, I think, those workflows with your help over the last 3 or 4 years. That has all evolved.
We have had our fair share of workflow conversations.
Well, we use it. I would like to say, like Kurt described and Maxie described. I think the biggest change has been me, because I was looking at this as more of a marketing tool, and I didn't want the engineers messing with it except to build polygons and in areas, and then I would do everything else. And so I was hoping I'd have 5 or 6 different areas, or I guess we have 15 markets, so 15 markets, and it would be nice, clean data. I could do all kind of pretty things with it. Fast forward, I guess 5 or 6 years, and now engineering uses it for everything, from planning, from reporting, and now I've got 500-600 zones that I'm always dealing with, and I'm like, guys, leave this tool alone. This is for me, not for you. But it really is a tool that everybody in the company can use, and I have to appreciate that. So you can tell I don't have necessarily an operations mindset, as I do more strictly in my silo of marketing. But it's a tool that if somebody will stop long enough for me to explain it to them, they will certainly incorporate it into their daily operations of what they do. The problem is that we're still, just like a lot of small phone companies, we all have what we do and what we've done for the last 20 years, and we don't want to branch out. So that culture piece of it is still something that probably all of us deal with from time to time, and it's still something that we deal with as well too. That people say, I don't want one more tool. I'm like, I promise you, you're going to want this one. And those that have listened have embraced it, and have really started using it. So yeah, it's something that everybody in the company for us uses, much to my chagrin.
Thanks to all 3 of you for sharing. I'm going to do a little bit of a speed tour again. You guys mentioned quite a few things that are pretty powerful within the platform. So with just
hey Lucas, before you jump in, you do have a question from Joey Graham.
Ah, lovely.
From Farmers. I'll let you jump in and nail that.
Yeah. Could you? I don't have the chat open. Could you let me know what the question is?
The question was: Farmers Telecommunication uses CrowdFiber to market to our new areas that we have built. We're wanting to market to some of our older areas also. Is there a way to sort out the addresses of our current customers and only target non-customers with CrowdFiber?
Yeah, of course. I can actually show that on screen right now. With engagement, CrowdFiber can send, or with marketing tools, CrowdFiber can both send postcards directly from your CrowdFiber platform, where you'll create your direct mail campaign, right? And you'll just simply send your postcard to the printer right from CrowdFiber. You'll be able to monitor inside your CrowdFiber platform from printing to delivery. And how each one of these features are created, or these marketing campaigns are created, or via contact lists for your email campaigns and address lists for your direct mail campaigns. So in its simplest sense, and we can certainly, I'd be happy to dive deeper into this in a separate conversation. But with CrowdFiber's list building feature, all you have to do is simply, if you're targeting addresses, let's say you want to target a single zone. Now you can send out a campaign to multiple zones at once, depending on your content in your campaign, if it applies to multiple service areas. But all you really need to do is apply the filter as order equals no. And what this is going to do is CrowdFiber's list technology is dynamic, so list management is automated for you. And what that's going to do is every time when you create this list immediately, only addresses without CrowdFiber orders are going to be included on this address list, right? So only new customers or potential customers rather will receive this postcard. And since the list is dynamic, after you've created the list, as more addresses in this case, the downtown zone create registrations, right? Place orders in CrowdFiber, they're automatically going to be removed from this list. So the next time you send out a direct mail campaign, you can continue to utilize the same list, and it's going to be up to date, only sending, after that first round of campaigns, only sending postcards to the addresses that did not create orders from your previous campaign. Better said, just do not have orders since you created the list. I hope that helps. And definitely happy to dive deeper into that with you in a separate conversation. But if there's anything I can expand upon right now, please let me know. Some of the things that were mentioned by Maxie, Carrie, and Kurt that I just want to display on screen very quickly were one from the high level information that you see in all of your indices, like orders and take rates, monthly recurring revenue in your in-service areas. There's also inside each one of your record types, whether it's orders or zones or just your leads or abandoned registration processes, you're able to capture or create custom fields. So if it's not just a standard CrowdFiber field and you have another field that's important to your day-to-day operations, we can create that field for you and you can actively manage that field as you see fit. We can also place custom fields in a registration process. So as orders come in, if there's, and again, standard fields in CrowdFiber that don't apply to all the information you need to collect in a registration process, we can embed those custom fields into your CrowdFiber registration processes. And funding was an interesting mention because that's something that's often overlooked with CrowdFiber. Yes, you can have registration processes that target specific e-commerce experiences to each one of your in-service areas of specific product and pricing and messaging. You can pre-registration data. We can capture orders that happen outside of your service areas just so you can collect, maybe perhaps identify pockets of demand that you didn't know about. And last but not least, using CrowdFiber for your grant projects is a great option. CrowdFiber, in addition to things like surveys and e-commerce and contact forms, can also provide things like FCC verification in line with a unique user experience specific for your grant area, right? Giving your registrants the ability to say to each provider in the area, is it available? And if you do subscribe, is it actually sufficient for your life? And last but not least, we do have a speed test. So you can take this speed test data, complete with upload, download, jitter, and advanced statistics, and just have that record of speed test information associated with your address. We had a couple members last year with a couple of grant projects that sent out 3 different rounds of CrowdFiber registrations because they needed 3 different speed test verifications for everyone who had applied, or expressed interest in having their services provided to their area. So with that, last thing I'll mention was about addresses. And Kurt, you guys have done a fantastic job with your address data, right? Whether Maxie mentioned, whether you're just drawing a polygon or uploading a service area to CrowdFiber and using CrowdFiber's address database to provide you with addresses and information from everything from the basic street address to USPS data and latitude and longitude. You can also upload your own proprietary address data. You don't necessarily have to use CrowdFiber's address data. You could upload your proprietary address data, your E911 address data, or what many of our members do is they use a hybrid approach, right? They'll use CrowdFiber for to gain addresses and address information in areas they don't have insight and address information for. And then some people will use their own proprietary data in the areas where they have good info. So that said, that's a little CrowdFiber speed tour. I wanted to unpack a couple of things you said because they're very powerful parts of the platform. And yeah, speaking of these features, just how has the data in your CrowdFiber platform or the features and capabilities of your CrowdFiber changed the way your team works day to day? I know it seems like it solved a lot of frustrations with the CSRs and in some cases engineering. Is there anything else that we could dive into?
You mentioned address data, Lucas, and again, the flexibility of the platform of allowing. We're pretty unique in Vermont. I mean, we have, right, kind of the sole source of service address data is the Vermont state E911 address data, and right, the towns, when a new address comes in, right, that has to go through the state E911 office, right? So we get that E911 address, right? It's MSAG, standard MSAG format, but we have a lot of, like Vermont route, BT route. So, one address record could have five different address records associated with it based on how it's spelled out. Are you spelling out the VT, to Vermont, or route, RT versus route? So over the last 20 years, that's given us a lot of headaches in terms of validating that data. So what we decided to do, working with you and Bailey and others, obviously, was to make that Vermont state E911 data basically the source of record for our address data within CrowdFiber. So like you said, right, we're using that source as basically the sole address data, which allows us to have a much easier matchup, right, when it's time to graduate that order from CrowdFiber into our BSS OSS system, which is going to, right, require that validated address. So again, the flexibility of the system has allowed us to do that instead of, right, we still use, right, some of your address data for certain things like those grant projects, et cetera. But, the bulk source keeper of record for us is that imported data.
Yeah.
So I think this would be in line to the question. If not, just like wave your hand, Lucas, and I'll be quiet. But so we have new subdivisions. So we call them greenfields, where the addresses don't exist. And so that's always been a challenge for us, is to how to make sure that that customer can. And so one of the tools that CrowdFiber offers that our team was not 100% on board with in the beginning, and now they feel they understand it's necessary, is the customer being able to control their PIN on the map. And so like our teams didn't like it. They like, no, how do they know where their house is? Like, well, they know better than us. And sometimes it's very hard for people to accept that. But it's been very crucial with the greenfield builds. Even if we take control of the order and we drop the pin and then, put it in place so that then it's an address of record, so that the Latin long is there, the polygon exists. And so if we can just get you in the polygon, it will allow our customer to sign up for service. And so that was something, like I had management that was always under the impression that we were missing hundreds and hundreds of orders because it couldn't be found because the address didn't exist. And so the pin drop and being able to move it and being able to accept that as a tool that is valuable has given us the growth in those greenfield builds and those new subdivisions, and been able to not have to rely solely on the addresses being present. So that's been one thing that has been a growth for us at Peoples, but just definitely a testament to the flexibility of the platform. So,
love it.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I've always explained to people about moving the dot, and they're all freaked out about. I want to say, you've all seen those bumper stickers that say "Our house doesn't call 911," and typically that's a political statement. But in some of our market is because 911 is not going to do anything. So we haven't had 911 in some of our areas. I don't know when it was mandated, but it doesn't seem like it was very long ago in some of our markets. It's still, everybody either has a post office box, or you go to the end of the road and turn right and drive another 20 miles. So it's the 911 is a new thing for a lot of our communities. In our major markets, it's not. And I'm actually on the 911 board, so that's convenient because I can get a whole lot of data from them and import that. But these other communities, not so much. So we've had to import some of our own data. We've had to go through some other, I don't know, some other type of operations to do that. And I'm talking, these are communities that may have 400 people. These are not certainly nothing that's of any significance compared to a larger town. But we service a lot of really tiny communities of 100 people or 200 people. So we've had to work with that, and it is getting better over time. And I'm always whining at Lucas going, what do I do? And he always has a solution about that. But he always understands the situation that we're in, and that's just some of the, in the small rural towns, you take the good with the bad. And sometimes that's just kind of a frustrating part that goes with it. But CrowdFiber has worked with us to make sure the addressing is as close to a deliverable service address as possible. So I don't have any complaints with that.
Yeah, those are definitely, when it comes to address data, just the learning technology of the platform is super helpful in a lot of areas, right? Because if you don't have an address in your database and someone searches an address and clicks the go button, if that address doesn't exist in your CrowdFiber database, CrowdFiber is going to reference its address databases in real time. And when it can find the address, and it usually does, it'll add that address to your address database, geocode it, associate it with the correct service area, and so on and so forth. It can be helpful in those situations, especially in newer areas. But that pin on the map page, you're right. This page has its positives, and it has its, well, some people could see dragging a pin as a negative. And just like every step in your CrowdFiber registration process, it's optional, right? Include it if you would like, remove it if you would like. So with that, for your E911 addresses, perhaps you don't want to show this page, right? But for addresses in areas where you might want a little bit of clarification on is this Latin long record correct, then yeah, show this pin on the map page, this location confirmation page, because on this page, when the pin is dragged and dropped and the next button is clicked, CrowdFiber will update the geocoordinates of this pin on the map. Right? So the address record will receive the coordinates, or have the coordinates of the drag and drop pin, and it will provide the user experience based on the geocoordinates of that address, of the drag and drop pin.
I'd like to say, sorry, Lucas, but Peoples has actually done it both ways. So my team was so adverse to the drag and drop of the pin that we went without the pin drop, and we felt that it was better experience, better customer journey, better data to allow the user to move. Yes, sometimes they move it into the wrong zone and it's incorrect, but we know how to go behind the scenes and correct that address data and fix it. But we've operated both directions. And today the pin drop is there, and that is the best for what we're doing today. So I guess what I'm saying is there's nothing you can do that Lucas can't fix. So just push the system to the limits and just go for it. Woo!
I think I'm gonna rephrase that. Nothing in CrowdFiber is ever done in finality. You can always make adjustments. You can always make changes. Maybe 8.5 out of 10 things I can fix. So
that sounds like a challenge. I mean, that invigorates me to try some new things.
Well, I look forward to your next email and next meeting, Carrie. So with CX, customer experience just being one of the hot topics this year, I got to ask, just specifically, what impact has CrowdFiber had on your organization's customer experience?
Yeah, and I think for us, Lucas, it's the biggest thing we were able to do is put more information in the hands of our CSRs, and then also push that information out, on the customer facing side. So for us, I think that was the biggest win, just allowing us to have a better answer for customers to answer that, when am I getting my fiber?
Yeah, exactly. For us, getting the information as close to the edge as we can is perfect, internally as well as external. And it's not a big hidden secret about where our fiber or the services are anymore.
I mean, so when we adopted CrowdFiber, it was still, if you want to pay us money, you have to drive down to the local branch office and sign up for service on a piece of paper. And so, like looking back and historically, that was what CrowdFiber did for us. Like it was a direct increase of revenue and acquisition, because it was now the tool that gave potential customers a way to sign up without having to be mailed a paper document or come in. It really did expedite our processes. And so that was huge. And then, now since, like, I can't imagine not having that option. And then not having to go in 3 different places. I mean, because for the customer, that's on hold for how long, or that's a phone call back, or that's a let me follow up with you tomorrow after I've talked to 6 people. And so, as frustrating as it was for our teams, it's like you look back and you're like, why did anybody keep coming back to us? Like, why did they wait for us? And so now they don't have to wait because all the information is there at the fingertips. And so, I mean, I guess it's just time. Time is so valuable for everyone. So when you can get the answers for your customers quickly and efficiently, then they're going to see that value. And that's come from our partnership with CrowdFiber.
Yeah, the ability to just collect those contractually binding terms and conditions at the end of a registration process, right? So, including a signature electronically, right in line with the registration process, can be something incredibly powerful, right? It's just this is, when done correctly, it can be contractually binding. And Carrie, I think your team sends out automates the delivery of a PDF contract that's electronically completable with CrowdFiber, right?
It is. However, I kind of like what you have on the screen better than what I'm doing. But we use HelloSign, and then we send that to them, and they fill it all out, send it back to us, and it's relatively seamless. It just works. I mean, it hadn't been a problem. Unfortunately, our billing system that we have is they will not work with CrowdFiber. I will say CrowdFiber has you've got webhooks and APIs. You have all the tools that my billing vendor needs to incorporate this, but we still swivel chair it. So the documents will come back, and then we can import that into our billing system. But there's still some manual labor that's involved. But that's our process. That's nothing to do with CrowdFiber. But yeah, it's fantastic for the customers. We used to have to print and fax and ask them, can you print this if I email it to you? And oh my heavens, it was embarrassing to sell internet. Unlike Maxi, I kept thinking, why do people buy from us? I wouldn't buy from us. It was so complicated. I mean, it was really, really complex. And it just simply is not anymore. I mean, it's all that's been a big win for us.
Cool. That's well said. Yeah. Well, let's dive into perhaps some potential concerns that the people in the audience might have. I guess, what advice would each of you give to someone who's evaluating CrowdFiber to help guide them towards the best decision for their organization?
I think the biggest thing for me would be to talk to your peers, right? I think all of us are resources. I know a bunch of people on the call, but check out what your peers are doing. And that's how we certainly landed here. And I've already taken a few notes from both Carrie and Maxi in terms of some tweaks I'd like to make to our site in terms of how we're using it. And I think that is the other big message, is to there's a lot of great hand-holding from CrowdFiber to get things up and running, but you don't have to implement everything at once. You can certainly grow into it and grow into your use case and evolve with it as your use case evolves and you find new features and functions, right, that help out. And while I'm thinking of that, Lucas, we talked about the platform also continuing to evolve with your members. And one of the things I just implemented was a new feature you guys implemented a couple weeks ago, and that was the automatic lead follow-up. So yeah. Super excited about that, because that was something that I think is just awesome, right? And now it's automated in the system. We don't have to manually do that. And that's sending follow-up emails right to those leads that come in. So people who basically abandon the shopping cart, right? They're either in a pre-registration or an in-service area. They search their address, but don't click that submit button, right, to complete their registration. So it's allowing us to put a automated process in place to remind them. We have it set for a day out at 10 in the morning. Those emails go out, but it's great that that is now in there, right? So we continue to evolve as the platform evolves as well.
Yeah, so it's nice to be able for them to be able to pick up where they left off rather than have to restart.
For us, I would say this is back in COVID. We were sitting home on a Thursday or Friday, and I think Monday, Lucas, you and I started working on the platform. So I had the benefit of being home with nothing else going on to spend all day long working on this. And I loved it because I really got to immerse myself into it. I got to learn the platform, and I didn't have a lot of other distractions. So if I didn't have that, I probably would have had to go back and have our company define what the problems are. Otherwise, this would have been just one more system, and everybody would have said, yeah, we have 10 other systems just like it. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. This is not like it. But if you define the problems and then say CrowdFiber solves this problem, everything that you have a problem with, this system solves that. I think you'd have I would have had a really good internal sell. Now, that being said, part of that sell is for somebody to allocate the time to build the system. I don't think anything that you and I did was complicated. However, I wanted to walk through all of the customer journey. I didn't have I love what Maxie did. She took the time to do small pieces of it. My company didn't give me that option. They said, you've got 3 months or 2 months or whatever to get this up and going. So I had to go from a dead standstill to a sprint to finish the marathon, and we did. And I took 20 hours, 30 hours or more of your time every week to walk through this. But maybe not every company has that. So I would just say from company standpoint, just make sure that you have the time to do this right, because whatever you put into it, you're going to get a 10x return from it. But don't go into it going, I'm just going to dance around this hoping to get all the benefit of it. This is graduate level stuff. This is a really big platform, and you put the effort into it, you'll get, it will certainly reward you for it. So have your eyes open going into it, that this is just not one more little system that's going to be a time waster. This is a time saver. So just make sure your whole team is on board.
Yeah, I mean, buy-in is crucial for anything. And it's, when I think that, like Carrie said, when they see how much time it will save, then the buy-in will be there for sure. I would say if you're hesitant, I mean, Kurt hit the nail on the head. You've got to talk to other people using it, and ask them the good, the bad, the ugly. Because there's always things you wish it would do a little bit better, or things like that. But we've asked for, hey, I wish this would do better, and then CrowdFiber's delivered. And so that's one thing that I would say, like when it gets put into the idea pool or the enhancement requests, you see those enhancements actually come to fruition, which is a testament to the development and the support of the program itself and the team. And so I've definitely, that's one thing that if you've been burned by other programs or vendors because you needed it to work differently and they just weren't willing to change their sweet little baby platform that they have. I don't feel that that's not CrowdFiber's approach to their platform. They are willing to shift it and adjust it to fit your needs and to fit the industry needs and to see the growth from all of the companies that are using it. And so, that's one thing that I've seen, and so that's not talking about the platform itself, but the company as a whole. So if you're hesitant, just ask questions, and they'll send you tons of references and resources, because there's a ton of people that trust them with their data and with their customer experience and their processes. So yeah,
we've really put a lot of effort into our onboarding process as well. Just when someone joins the platform, just making sure that you have a dedicated person there to help you construct your platform, right? Based on the reason you purchase CrowdFiber, whatever goals, challenges, needs you have for the platform. We make sure we take those into account, and we're cognizant of those as we make recommendations on how to build your registration processes, how to work with your existing data within the platform. And yeah, there's a step-by-step process that's well, you just need the not too much, really. A couple of a GIS file of your zones, know the messaging you want to communicate to your customers, then just the time and effort to put that into a platform is really all it takes to get a CrowdFiber platform up and running. And that can be as straightforward or as sophisticated as your organization would like to make it. I am curious. The three of you, I don't know how many conferences you go to every year, but I've seen you at every one I've ever been to. And when you talk with others about CrowdFiber, are there any misconceptions out there or that people might have when researching or just kind of just assuming things about CrowdFiber that you would like to clear up? And if not, that's fine. It's just a curiosity more than anything.
So like one of our oppositions for CrowdFiber originally, which has been a while ago. So I think probably just through attrition and listening to webinars like this and hearing how people are using it, I don't know that it would still be one. But to be honest, the name CrowdFiber, we weren't at a place where fiber was predominantly within our network. And so now it's a common name and it's perfectly fine. It's no big deal. But the misconception that it has to be fiber. So, we have fiber and fixed wireless, and that's a huge piece of our footprint. And so it is really more, it's more vast than that. And then the fact that the crowdsourcing, that's all it is the pre-registration and the crowdsourcing, because that is actually the smallest piece of the way that people's uses CrowdFiber. We have done successful crowdsourcing campaigns 100% through the platform, but that is definitely just the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg of how we're using this platform. And so and so I guess like if you hadn't talked to your peers, if you hadn't heard how Carrie and Kurt and Maxie are using it, then if you just saw it and it's, CrowdFiber and it's crowdsourcing of, fiber deployments, like it is so much more than that. And so maybe just underselling it from a namesake would be the misconception. And so sorry about that, Lucas, but I mean, that's the truth. Is it's so much more. And so don't just stop it at the face value. So much more to it.
No, I had a meeting about a month ago where one of our users just finally no longer had any more DSL or Viasat areas. And we actually had to reschedule the meeting because we spent the whole time just celebrating that rather than actually going over what we needed to. But you're right. That's a great, thank you for clearing that up.
That is good because 50% of our market is still like copper-based network, and then most of our expansion now is fixed wireless. So yeah, while our fiber jumped out ahead, it's kind of now almost kind of shrinking down in some areas as we're deploying so much fixed wireless. But from a company standpoint, the people still talk CrowdFiber. They know what it means, but from a customer standpoint, sometimes they question it. But the other thing is I'll run into people and they're like, well, just use your billing system. Most billing systems, they all have the same platform that does the same thing. And I'm like, well, tell me what your billing system does. And they'll explain it. And I'm like, you've read some bad literature, because that is not what CrowdFiber does. So I think not everybody still understands the extent of what the platform is used for, which it still puzzles me because I knew CrowdFiber years before we ever signed on the line. And so I felt I knew what it did, but then when I learned more about it, I was still blown away by how much more. And you guys are still coming up with neat things that I'm like, oh, I'm excited. It's excited to try this. I think you and I were talking last week about another element that I've never used. That now that I've completely changed my operations on existing customers, because we don't incorporate it with our billing system. So now I have to do some other work to do that. Now I'm doing that, but yeah, just letting people know exactly what your system does compared to, your NIST or Mac or whatever billing system you use. That's very eye-opening for people. And I've never missed a chance to tell somebody, how good the CrowdFiber system is.
Thanks, Ben. Kurt, you are muted.
Yeah, in terms of misconceptions, yeah, I mean, I think what Carrie and Maxie said regarding technology, right? It really is technology agnostic, and can evolve with you. So, just like everyone else on the call, right? We're not 100% fiber yet. So we're still using it in terms of messaging, right? With those customers, right? That 30% that, want to know the when. So again, I think that would be the only thing, right? It's not just a fiber focused solution, right? It can adapt to, if you're delivering, right? We had three. We had DSL, coax, which we still have about 100 cable modem customers left. Hopefully we'll be out of that business by the end of June, and all converted over to fiber. So, we're making progress, but the system, right, is technology agnostic, even though it has fiber in its name, and it has allowed us to message regarding, as we continue to evolve the network.
Nice. How about people in the audience? With everything we just discussed, are there perhaps any misconceptions that you'd like to clear up, or just what questions do you have that would make sure that you leave here today with all of the CrowdFiber insights and information that I was talking about at the beginning of this webinar? What can we answer that would help you leave here today knowing that you've got all of the information or insight you need to make a good decision? All right. Maxie, Kurt, Carrie, you guys have just answered everyone's questions.
Looks like one just came in for you, Lucas.
Ah, cool. I'm gonna open up the Q&A.
I think it might be in chat.
It's over in the chat.
So, Lucas, the question is, it's from another great question from Joey. Is CrowdFiber compatible with NISC's billing system?
So our API is already configured to receive data from NISC as well as be able to send data to NISC. The constraint right now is just simply having NISC build the endpoint or complete their capabilities to send or receive data to and from CrowdFiber. The CrowdFiber team is very on board with creating this integration. We're excited about it. We want to work with NISC on it, and when that can be, our technology is ready. So when NISC can incorporate that into their roadmap, we'll be on the spot with that project.
Hey, Lucas, that's a very sensitive topic, and you danced around that very well. But I mean that very positively. But as a customer of NISC, the holdup is on the NISC side. They do not like external inputs into their system. So we've worked with them. We've set up calls with CrowdFiber, and they have not been responsive. So I don't mean to rain on NISC's platform. However, the roadblock there is not CrowdFiber. That being said, I think we have some tickets that are open with them to try to get them to work closer together. But I think we're, I don't know, 10 months out or something like that. So we have had to go back and run reports in NISC and then upload that into CrowdFiber so we can do like existing customers, for example. That's what I've been working on lately. And it's just, unfortunately, it's not I don't know why NISC is a massive giant in the billing business, and sometimes it seems like they're actually intimidated by CrowdFiber. So that's kind of the lay of the land from my experience, and I want to certainly speak my experience only and not cast cast shade on them at all. But it's been an unfortunate situation, and I don't know how we're going to remedy that going forward. But it's something we look at quite frequently.
And Lucas, correct me if I'm wrong, like Carrie, I've had many meetings with the executive staff at NISC, just looking for, different paths forward in terms of integration. And we're still on SIS and not Connect. And there's some address validation challenges because everything right within SIS requires that address validation step within the system. So, there is some pieces of the SHAM integration, right, that we've been able to set up with on the SIS platform. But there is a lot more flexibility, I know, on your roadmap with them on the Connect side.
Hey, Lucas, we've gotten a couple other questions here, so
Sure.
I'm going to jump in.
Yeah.
Hold on here.
I'll bounce
So
over
there
to
was a
Okay.
question about, is this a standalone software or does it incorporate into other software? And I'm just going to see, then the next question was, they're all kind of similar in nature. There was a question about a little bit more understanding about NISC in the challenges, the roadblock limited, but I think we've addressed that one. The next one was about how technically gifted do you need to be to create and update zones? We've got another question, but I'll let you answer those before I jump into the last one.
So going right down the line, if I can remember them in the correct order. So the answer is it standalone or does it need to integrate with other software? That's up to you. We have webhooks that allow you to send data to third-party platforms. We have a robust API, which allows you to send data to other platforms. We have standing integrations with several billing systems. A couple that come to mind are Sonar, Mac. There is that lightweight NISC handoff. There's one with GLDS where we can hand off data to that platform as well. And I believe we have another one with CDG. So with that, I could be overlooking a couple of the integrations, but and the answer is it's really up to you. How do you want to work with? How does CrowdFiber fit into your organization? Should it be standalone, or would you like to use some of our tools or existing integrations to make your CrowdFiber data available in other locations? Technically gifted to create zones. Well, we do have an integration with ArcGIS where if you set this integration up, you actually don't need to create zones in CrowdFiber. With a couple clicks, you can push updates to existing zones or push new polygons into the platform. You can also, if you're feeling so inspired, you can manually draw zones in CrowdFiber. But the most popular way to get your zones into CrowdFiber is to upload a GIS file of your choice and create your zones in bulk, or to upload a CSV of your zones and create your zones in bulk. So the technically giftedness can be as simple as clicking around a map to draw a zone, or it can be in how good are you at exporting and importing files. CrowdFiber will work with just about any GIS file, from shapefiles to KML, KMC, GeoJSON, and of course CSVs.
And Lucas, we've got 2 more questions. We'll see if we can get them in here. Is
Sure.
CrowdFiber integrated with Elation's billing system? That question was from Deb. And then there's another question here, but I'll let you answer that one.
At this time, no, we do not have an integration with Elation, but we do have the API and webhooks available to explore.
Okay. Last one, Carrie had this. Carrie had it for Carrie. Carrie, were you an NISC SHOM user prior to CrowdFiber? How was the change? And I think we may have answered that, but
yeah. We are not. We have a new market that's coming online here soon, and I think they want to try that integration, just kind of see how it works. But we're probably 6 to 8 months out on that. So we've talked about it for years, and we have not gone with that platform. But we're still working on lots of other things. So yeah, not there yet, but our executives want us to try this in a new market just to see if it integrates, which I think will just show the reason why we use CrowdFiber. That certainly is a test that I'm going to have to work with. I did think of one thing, Lucas, on I don't know if the caller was asking this question, but I know one of the other systems that are out there that is somewhat similar to CrowdFiber, they're based on a Salesforce platform. And so you have to have a Salesforce license for everybody to use the platform. And when we were kind of putting all this on a whiteboard, looking at the numbers, what it was going to cost, I think besides all the benefits of CrowdFiber, we were terrified of the Salesforce licensing fees. And so that's a platform. That may be what they were asking without saying Salesforce. I know a lot of people build on that API, but that's we chose not to, once again, because of the extra cost on that.
Gotcha. Just a plug for the platform here. We don't we don't charge for seats. That is not part of the subscription model. Well, we have gone over time, and I'm very grateful for everyone who hung out with us till the end. And I'm super grateful to Maxie, Kurt, and Carrie taking the time to join us today and share everything that they did. So to the three of you, thank you so much. And again, to the audience, I hope this was helpful in helping you get more informed about CrowdFiber. If you want more information, if you'd like to meet one-on-one with me or someone to talk about the CrowdFiber platform, please reach out to us. Happy to dive as deep into the software as you'd like, so you guys can make the best decision possible for your organization. And I'm just going to check the questions one more time, but it looks like that's it. The rest of the NRTC team, anything to add before we say have a great rest of the day? I think that's nothing to add. Yeah. So
Carrie's got to get back to the barbecue.
Yeah, have a great barbecue,
that's right.
man. Enjoy yourself. Have fun.
That's exactly right. Thank you, Lucas.
Maxie, Kurt, as always, thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Great to see everybody.
Bye, everybody. See ya.